It's the Harris Football Podcast with your host, Christopher Harris.
Welcome! Hey everybody, welcome in. My name is Chris and this is a show. Hello there. Thank you so much for listening to this little podcast that could. Let's start right away today with a quick email from Russell Olsney in Nebraska, who writes, "Hey Harris, longtime listener since the Fantasy Underground days. I was perusing the Yacht Club dictionary that you link to every week in the show notes, and first of all, I don't see some of my current favorite nicknames in there, like the Smiling Goon for Taysom Hill and Fire Pit for David Njoku, but as it exists right now, the Yacht Club dictionary is a great time capsule of the first years of the show. What are your favorite podcast nicknames from the past era of the show that you don't get to mention anymore because the players aren't in the league anymore? This show is so stupid." Yeah, Russell, I do not look a gift horse in the mouth when it comes to the Yacht Club dictionary. There were years there where I thought it was online and it wasn't, and it's been pretty consistently online the past couple of years, which is great. It does not have too many of the very latest nicknames on it, but I am so grateful. I want to call them out. The fact that Joel Greenberg and the great Alex Canada have recreated it at all. I'm so happy. And you're right, it is hilarious to look at the old nicknames that came out of my stupid head over the years. Do I have favorites? You know, I don't know. I don't know that I rank them in my head, but cruising around on that page this morning because of Russell's email, I mean, man, I am not well. A few that stood out and also just happen to have sound drops that we don't play on the show anymore for obvious reasons. Here are 7 that I picked out, kind of at random, but I had a fun time, as Russell says, on memory lane with. How about Isaiah Crowell, whom cousin Josh referred to as Kroll for basically the entire time he was featured on the show. Golden Kroll, of course. Some fun with tight ends on the list that I picked out today. How about Eric Ebron, who had the opposite of kitten mittens attached to his wrists? Not only did he have duck hands, I mean, his hands were worse than duck hands. He had those narrow windows in medieval castles through which arrows could be shot and hot tar poured out to kill invaders. He had murder holes.
Don't let the ball go through. Murder holes.
Remember Jay Ajayi? That guy was talented, and he appeared with the Eagles, and then didn't he go to the Dolphins toward the end of his career, which was short? We were always tempted by him, a guy that size who moved that well, but Jay Ajayi just always hurt. And something was going on between his ears. And most of the time, if you selected him, you were kicked in the little Ajays.
Kicked in the little Ajays. The little Ajays.
Another tight end who stood out to me, Jimmy Graham. I mean, great player in his day. The final several years of his career, he was hanging on with the Packers and the Bears, and people just kept ranking him like, hey, he's tight end 5 out of name recognition, but the film just wasn't very good. So what came out of my silly mouth? I said that if his name wasn't Jimmy Graham, if he had a different name, people wouldn't rank him like that. He didn't deserve it. If his name was, Horse Donovan. The little horse's neigh there, that really makes it. How about Tevin Coleman? He was so beloved by someone. I mean, stats nerds, I don't know. He had that one season when Devontae Freeman was still with the Falcons, and Tevin Coleman scored 8 touchdowns. People were just desperate to rank Tevin Coleman high, and then I think Freeman leaves Atlanta, and people are like, oh, he's a RB1, and I just did not buy the film, and neither did cousin Josh, who said that Tevin Coleman was no pastrami on rye. No, he was, of course, a turkey mayo.
Stands upright on a football run. Tevin Coleman is a turkey mayo.
He did stand upright on a football run. So just last night, Thursday night, I did an impromptu live stream and I told a full story that I'm not going to tell the full story here, but suffice it to say that it involved some bad analysis done on a former Colts and Saints tight end who I had watched for years. Sorry, I don't agree. Just because he has Drew Brees throwing it to him, he's going to be good. He did not look exactly like he knew what he was doing or where he was supposed to go out there because...
You are a human brain fart. A brain fart. A brain fart. Brain fart.
Because he's a human brain fart, of course. And lastly, I mean, come on. Who could forget Eddie Lacy? The first year of the podcast, he was heading into his third NFL season, and people were trying to tell us that he was a first-round fantasy pick. Did we believe it? You know that we did not, and you know why.
They got some tasty burgers.
15 Big Macs, please.
Who's hungry now? Who's hungry now?
Did anyone order me a plain cheese?
Well, fat Eddie and a spam. Well, fat Eddie, eggs and ham. Yeah, I don't know why. Rack of lamb, too many French fries. Oh, no. Fat and sweaty, golden grams. Got a big old belly, full of jam. Well, fat Eddie and a lamb. Well,
Chris Gentili, one of the greats. That was a very fun march down memory lane for me. Thanks, Russell, for the email. And again, thanks to Joel and Alex for maintaining a yacht club page that persists, a dictionary page that is still there. It was a blast to look at. All right, so what else is going on? I don't think we've really gotten any landscape-altering news out of the first day or now 2 of training camps, though the blurbs do keep smashing us in the face. That's kind of the point of these July shows, to train our brains not to take the majority of camp news as being ultra significant. Anthony Richardson, I guess, has already looked bad throwing it for reporters. We said on Monday's show that we have our eyes on that one. We'll keep watching things like that. The big doings in my world, however, are that coming up next week, wow, Almanac Day. Is it 1 week from today? 1 week from today. It is. For folks who have pre-ordered the Almanac, you will get the PDF delivered to you on Friday, August 1st. That is the culmination of a ton of work on my part. I've been writing this thing since April. I think it's the best one I've ever done. I think you'll really enjoy it. How about let's read another profile to give you a flavor? How about Isaac Guerendo? We'll talk NFC West on the show next week, but Guerendo, of course, is going to get drafted in all fantasy leagues because, yep, he should. He's on the 49ers, and he's a running back. Here's how that profile will read. Name a famous person you'd be grouchier to see on a football field a lot in 2025 than Isaac Guerendo. Andrew Tate? Machine Gun Kelly? The Hawk Tua lady? Because, of course, if Guerendo's playing a bunch, it means Christian McCaffrey got injured again, and that means there's a pretty decent chance Guerendo might play a bunch. In San Francisco, in the Shanny Jr. system, that's definitely worth something, so maybe I'm too low on CMC's understudy, but I also understand how the 49ers chew up and spit out reserve running backs, and having done a film futures on Guerendo back in January, I suspect there are flaws in his game that could tick off his coaches and offer chances to other guys. As a rookie, Guerendo did everything a million miles an hour. He tries to get going so fast, sometimes to the point where he drops his shoulders and pumps his arms before he ever takes a handoff. Now, he's a 4.33 sprinter at 220 pounds, and that's attractive raw material, so you understand why he's trying to outrun everybody. But man, sometimes he just smacks into stuff. Late in the year, when all the other good veteran running backs were injured, Guerendo had a Thursday night game against the Rams where he cut out of an open lane to bounce sideways directly into 3 tacklers, and a couple plays later ran directly into Deebo Samuel on a carry when Deebo had been in motion. The speed seems real. The vision, the patience, the setting up blocks, I don't see it yet. It was only 84 carries, and I'm borderline positive the Niners coaches are telling him all this because it's glaring. I grant you that the offense was a shell of itself by the time Guerendo was getting real work, but you also just don't often see running backs play with their hair this much on fire. Jordan Mason is gone, though, and I don't know anything about 5th-round rookie Jordan James. I'd suspect Guerendo will enter September number 2 on the depth chart, and at minimum be a valuable handcuff. And if he settled down a bit, he might even have a real role when McCaffrey is healthy. And that would make sense. Keep Tiny Bones healthy. Grabbing Guerendo late and stashing him until the buys begin is a high upside strategy, but he'll need to calm down to truly pay off. So that's how Isaac Guerendo's profile reads. The player profile almanac is the thing I always wished I could write a decade ago when I was at ESPN, when I wrote the profiles for their print magazine every year, but it was print, so of course you had very limited space, so you couldn't tell a lot of jokes. In the Almanac, which is a PDF, it doesn't matter how long it is, so I get to stretch out and say what I like about players and make jokes and go deeper with my analysis. I would love it if you'd check it out. You can pre-order, so you'll get it on Friday next week. Just go to harrisfootball.com.
Today's kickoff.
Okay, on today's show, our division-by-division previews of training camps and August practices continues. Our mission statement this time of year, as I referred to earlier, is to talk about the ways in which our opinions can and can't change based on the stories we read before we do our fantasy drafts. So today we're going to hit the teams of the NFC South. That means Buccaneers, Falcons, Saints, and Panthers. And to help with today's mission, it's Patrick Daugherty from Rotoworld. And I think it'll be a really fun show. And I thank you again so much for listening today. I woke up this morning. I figured out what I was going to say in the intro of today's show. And then before recording it, you know what I did. I put the powder in the water and I drank my AG1. This has been my daily habit for more than 3 years now. And AG1 has big news. Their next gen is one of the most clinically backed greens powders. They went above and beyond the industry standard in testing, making a great product even better. AG1 is always evolving. The formula is different from time to time. Next gen will fill nutrition gaps, even for healthy eaters, which I love. Plus, and this is the key really for me, my stomach feels much better. If you struggle with digestion or, tummy troubles in general, all I can say is try AG1. It has made such a difference for me. It's a simple habit. Drink AG1 first thing. The probiotic and prebiotic and other gut health ingredients have made a real difference for me. So subscribe today to try the next gen of AG1. drinkag1.com/Harris. You'll get a free bottle of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first order. It'll make a big difference in your energy and your tummy. drinkag1.com/Harris.
Today's guest.
Too prickly of a personality. Charlie Day, Ringo Starr. Mr. Also Important at Rotoworld. Welcome, Pat Daugherty.
Charlie Day, Ringo Starr, 10 years of this crap that Rotopat has been putting up with this stuff with me. You can find Patrick Daugherty on both Twitter and Blue Sky. Look up Rotopat, Patrick Daugherty, that kind of thing. You'll find him there. He's on, of course, the Rotoworld football show right now, I think up through the beginning of the season, doing Tuesday and Thursday episodes. And also, the team preview series is going on at Rotoworld, to which Patrick is the main contributor. Hello, sir. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me. And yeah, earnest comment is that you are not a show or an audience that needs to be put up with. It's a very fun community to be a part of. One of the only pleasant podcast communities, really. So that's a really good one to be associated with.
You are very associated with it. In fact, as I said, I mean, I can't remember the exact date. This may actually be, like Friday, July 25th, it may actually be the exact 10th anniversary of my first episode.
Wow. Yeah. How many shows do you think I've been on? 40?
I did a count, man. I wish I still had it. You're after Cousin Josh. I think you're number 3. I think it's maybe Barron's. Maybe you may be number 2 after Cousin Josh.
Wow. Yeah, I would guess at least 40. I don't know. That
I mean,
might be
I think more.
high, but
Yeah, I think it might be
maybe
more.
that's a bit low. Yes.
Yeah,
a
I
lot.
think it might even be
A
more.
lot.
I have a count somewhere. I should for like a 10th anniversary thing. I should probably like just do a countdown of the most commonest guests. But you're a great friend as always for coming aboard, and we're actually having training camps now. I keep saying training camps are going to start in August, but they've completely changed. And I mean, I don't think they're doing much yet in these practices, but Justin Fields can still get his toe stomped on and set everybody's heart racing. So this is like technically a training camp preview series, but not really.
Nothing technical about it. It's unfortunately raging, and I say unfortunately because now my life is over. Of course, all of our listeners and readers understandably love it. And
Blurb Central, gotta react to everything. But the good thing on this show is we're kind of doing the opposite of that. I mean, we love the blurbs. You do God's work for sure, but there is a point at which one needs to be able to tell the wheat from the chaff, as it were, and that's the point of this episode, to which you are very accustomed. We're going to preview the teams of the NFC South and talk about what will and won't potentially change our opinions. Let's start with the Buccaneers, who somehow won that division last year, being dead in the water halfway through, but figured out a way with Baker Mayfield going
NFC
absolute.
South doesn't matter.
It's fair, but Baker Mayfield also went crazy. Who led the NFL in touchdown passes last year? Huh?
I know.
It wasn't.
And also interceptions.
Right,
So
exactly.
we love our Baker.
So we'll talk about what can and can't change our opinions. We sort of are where we are. We can talk about our opinions a little bit, but what I really want to focus in on is how our opinions could change depending on news. And in Tampa's case, I want to talk about receiver. I think there is. Well, I mean, there is. I don't think there is. There is something to be said for paying attention here because Chris Godwin, it was revealed a couple of days ago, had a second procedure. There was a second scalpel. And they said it was expected on his dislocated ankle, but it wasn't expected to me. So if Chris Godwin does nothing in August, that is certainly going to change your ranks. I know it is. And then if he's available by August 10th, that probably also means something else for your ranks because Mike Evans is still there. He kind of is what he is. They drafted Emeka Egbuka, who was a pure slot receiver in college, and then Jalen McMillan was also an outside guy. With Godwin healthy, Ibuka's going to play. They all move around, but that probably be worse for Egbuka. And if Godwin winds up unavailable for all of training camp, my point is that this matters.
Yeah, it's so expected, by the way, the surgery, that they never said anything about it. Absolutely loved when the complete surprise was also totally expected. I'm assuming what actually the case was when he had the first surgery. There's a slight chance he might need a follow up. We don't think that's going to be the case. And 6 months later, oh yeah, actually, never mind. He does need the follow up. The only thing I will say here, obviously, it always matters when a player is returning from a traumatic orthopedic lower body injury, but with a guy like Chris Godwin, it matters maybe about the least amount that it possibly could, because what's the archetype for the kind of player who could miss almost all of training camp and then come back and just hit the ground running for the regular season? It's someone like Chris Godwin, who's been on the team forever, been in the system forever. But I say the system, they're on their 4th offensive coordinator in 4 years. So even for a guy like Chris Godwin, I guess not great to miss the latest install. But then again, this is the Baker Mayfield offense at this point. This is the Baker Mayfield system. So I guess it matters in that just maybe the fitness level, the stamina won't be there. But Chris Godwin, we want things to matter so much because we have a whole month, 6 weeks to be reacting to things as we're waiting for actual games to begin. But I will say I wouldn't be surprised if the Godwin thing ended up mattering maybe less than it could. And like even if he didn't start practicing to like August 30th, I'm not going to be switching things up a ton.
Okay.
But I don't know. Am I underthinking this? We love to overthink things. Am I maybe underthinking this for once?
Well, I probably because I have a different starting point, I'm going to guess in my ranks than you do. I have Evans and Godwin really close in my ranks. Like both, I have Evans low, and from what I understand, again, I don't look at ADP until mid-August. I won't be looking for a few weeks yet, but I've been told by Little Birds, cousin Josh on my phone, that I'm really low on Mike Evans, and that's weird because this has been a decade. If there's one player over the decade of this show that I've been higher on the market every single year, it's Mike Evans, and somehow this year I'm lower. And so I have Evans and Godwin like almost right next to each other. I think in PPR I might have them right next to each other. So the people listening to the show who have looked at my ranks at harrisfootball.com are like, ooh, that's both surprisingly pessimistic on Evans and kind of aggressive on Godwin. So maybe someone like me who's doing that, I need to pay a little more attention and give Godwin a little more basement than I've been giving him. Whereas if you have if you're not putting Godwin in your top 30 right now among receivers, then maybe you have a little more room to be magnanimous with him.
And I will say, Evans of the four is the only one where I feel like it doesn't matter. Like his role is not changing. His target share is not going to change based on it. It could end up mattering enormously for Godwin, Ibuka, even Jalen McMillan, even though I guess he's like clear number 4 at this point. But I feel like the one player where there is not a variable is Mike Evans. Like Mike Evans just is Mike Evans. And this is kind of a problem for the rest of them to sort out. But then again, I guess that could also be underthinking it. Mike Evans, great player, but the other great player in this receiver core, at least proven great player, is Chris Godwin. And maybe I should be thinking about that more. But I view Mike Evans as kind of independent of like this pile up between Godwin, McMillan, and Ibuka.
Me too. Like, I'll just say my Evans logic is just that, he's really only ever done 2 things, but he's, borderline Hall of Famer doing those 2 things. He's real fast and big and can go down the field, and he's awesome in the end zone. And I don't think the end zone thing is going away, but I just think watching that film this summer, like, it was pretty clear that he lost a step. He is not the same deep speed
Listen,
guy.
I've been saying this since 2019, and I've never been right.
But
you should maybe to stay on the other side, and you to stay on the other side of the argument. Leave the fading to us, who've been doing it unsuccessfully for 6 or 7 years.
Where is Godwin in your receiver ranks ish? Is he 30s? Is he 40s?
No. He's still like
Okay.
he like the low end wide receiver 2 range still. Where
Okay.
One of my macro takes for the year is that there are no good wide receiver ADPs this year. We're finally in an era where the passing revolution has like truly cooled off a bit. A lot of guys have aged out. Some of the young guys aging in are taking longer to break out than expected. Guys like Jackson Smith and Jigba. And one of the truisms of like ADP all summer for me is I look at the receiver ADPs. Like, well, that's a bad ADP. Oh, then that's a bad. None of the ADPs look even remotely good to me. And so then,
you know why that is? Because wide receiver 3 in the infinite sadness is real. There's 50 guys that are all basically the same.
It's true. And I feel like it's extending all the way up to like the wide receiver 12 ranges. You're like, T. Higgins, huh? Really doing this again. That's great.
100%.
And the wide receiver ADPs just look bad this year. And so I'm going to have to draft a lot of ADPs that look bad. And also, even I, after all this time, I guess there's maybe something to be said for retreating to Mike Evans' safety as a low-end wide receiver.
Well, I'll tell you this. Like, I don't think it's the ADPs that are bad. I think it's the players.
Yep.
The players are all, they're all great. They're all fantastic, but they're all the same is the problem. And nobody's guaranteed like more than like 3 or 4 catches a week. And it's frustrating, which is why zero RB continues to be the worst idea and gets worse every year. All right. So that's the receivers. I don't know that. I mean, again, well, actually, it was Barron's coming on the show, whatever that was, sometime in May or April even, where I did film review on Bucky Irving, and I came out of it like, wow, My new nickname for him, by the way, I don't think I've said it on this show. I think I said it on Dave Kluge's show. My new nickname for Bucky Irving is the Sprinter Soldier. That's pretty good. Come on, that's pretty good. It's like Marvel. That was very populist of me. But I did film review of the Sprinter Soldier back in April, and I came out of it like, I really like this guy. This is terrific film. I'm psyched. And then I told that to Barons, and he's like, yeah, he's RB7 or whatever. And I was like, oh, then never mind. Okay, never mind. So I'm not going to get either Devon Achane or Bucky Irving because, to me, the size is just too concerning. And in Bucky Irving's case, it was a 50-50 split with Rachaad White until like week 17 or something. So
until it mattered the most.
It's fair.
I
don't have them close.
Yeah.
Sure, I don't have them close in my ranks. I have Irving way ahead. I just don't have him anywhere near RB1 territory, even though I do like him. But I just think, how's Rachaad White not getting 200 touches? And like, it feels like Irving's good. Irving's really good. It's just there are things that White does that are going to be really annoying for if you draft Bucky Irving in the second round. I guess the larger point, you can have that conversation for sure right now if you want to. The larger point is that no matter what they say, it's going to be difficult to believe anything that comes out of their mouths as far as the rotation of the running backs until we see it happen.
Yeah, it'll be useless information for sure. But he's bunched in with Devon Achane, both in the discussions and in the ADPs, very similar. And I think it's a good guy for him to be associated with because it is this year's Devon Achane situation. Like, he was so efficient, he was so explosive. But he was a committee back as a rookie. Can he possibly maintain that efficiency this year? Is the workload actually going to get bigger? So I think a lot of similar questions and concerns to Devon Achane last year. But the two games that mattered most, Week 18 and the wild card round, he did outtouch Rachaad White 40-3. And it's obviously, I don't think that's the new normal. I think they're going to keep Rachaad White as involved as they can when they can, but also like a clear indication, like in winning time. I don't think they're going to be having a committee like if the game's close in the second half kind of deal, and where Rachaad White is maybe mixing in to like change the pace in the first half. In the second half, he's more of a true breather back type. And I think it's not going to be particularly close to 50-50. I think maybe more 65-35. And like winning time, it could be 75-25. It's Rachaad White's final year of his rookie contract. He posted on social media basically like, his time in Tampa is over. Not in like a petulant, angry way. Yeah, it was wistful. Yeah. But I think the Bucky era is upon us. And I actually don't even mind the Bucky ADP. I'm all in on the Sprinter Soldier, I will say.
I'm not, because the ADP is insane. I'll say also I did film review on the show, if people want to go listen to it, back in April, in consecutive weeks, I believe, on Achane and then on Bucky Irving. And it is fair because they're both just very small to be lead backs in the NFL. I like Irving a lot. I mean, I actually have Achane rated, I think, 2 spots ahead of Irving. As a football player, I like Irving a lot more because he doesn't dance as much, because
he plays bigger and he looks thicker. I don't even know if he actually is thicker.
Yeah,
he does play bigger, and he plays bigger and looks thicker.
He just runs where the play's supposed to go. Achane's problem is everything's a bounce. My history of doing this tells me that when everything's a bounce, eventually you get burned. The coaches don't like it when everything's a bounce. There's so many plays. Achane had an ungodly number of negative gain plays, not just because he had a worse offensive line. He did have a worse offensive line, but it's because again and again he sprints away from a hole, like cuts out of a hole into 3 guys standing there, because it's just his instinct is I want to go around everybody, not through everybody. And Irving took a lot bigger hits. Maybe he's a bigger injury risk because of it, but he is much more of I'm supposed to go between the guard and the tackle. I guess it's where I'm going. I might get the lights knocked out of me, but I think that dude may be subject to a little more contact, which isn't great, but I think coaches like that. It's the James Cook experience. His rookie year, all he does is bounce. Halfway through his second year, all he's doing is bouncing. He gets benched for Damian freaking Harris. Somebody has a conversation with him, and suddenly now he runs where the play is supposed to go.
No, absolutely. And Bucky has a Baker mentality at running back. Like, not only am I going to get hit, I want to get hit for some reason. And hopefully I do not get hurt.
If you've been waking up stiff and sore and you don't know why, but then you think, oh, right, it's been years since I got a new mattress. If that's you, think Lisa. We are sponsored by Lisa. It's the mattress I sleep on every single night. I have for like close to a decade now. I am a bi-coastal Lisa sleeper, and I know not everyone hearing the sound of my voice this moment needs a new mattress, but eventually you will, and I would love it if you would keep Lisa in mind. They have a range of different mattress feels you can find on their website, but of course it doesn't matter what I say. Mattress is a very personal thing. Instead of going to the superstore and sitting on a dozen beds and then making a choice after like 5 minutes on a bed and then kind of being locked in when they deliver it, with Lisa, they'll send it to your door, sleep on it for 100 nights, more than 3 months, and if it's not perfect, they will come pick it up, no questions asked. We are still in their July 4th extended sale, 25% off site-wide at lisa.com. Plus, use my code Harris. You'll get $50 taken off the top. LEESA.com and use the code Harris. 25% off site-wide and $50 off on top of that. Lisa.com. Code Harris. Okay, we're back with Pat Daugherty, and we're going through the teams of the NFC South and talking through what we might learn from training camp. And now we're on to the Atlanta Falcons, and we're not going to learn that much from the Atlanta Falcons. That this is, of all the teams we've done to this point, like whatever it is, 3/4 of the way through the league, this is the first one where I'm like, ooh, I don't even know if I can find a topic. I mean, Michael Penix is now the full-time starter after only getting a few games at the end of last year. I still think Kirk Cousins eventually gets traded to the Browns, but I don't have any insight. It just seems too logical for it not to happen. But, you know, Penix was real interesting in December for sure. I think he grants theoretical upside to players who didn't have it last year, but I just don't know what we're going to learn about it in August.
No, yeah, where I would hope the 25-year-old second-year first-rounder like looks confident and poised in training camp, because I could I could chat GPT the Michael Penix summer report. Like, he looks more in command of the offense, and they're letting him do more at the line of scrimmage, and he's just playing faster than he did as a rookie. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, he's 25 years old, and he was a first-round pick. He was in the national championship game. I would certainly hope he at least knows how to run a practice. So, yeah, not going to pay a ton of attention to that. And, yeah, absolutely no new faces in the offense. Like, it's pretty rare to have just like a copy and paste from the previous year. I guess not a true copy and paste since Michael Penix did not begin the year as a starter. But I totally agree. The Falcons are a team where we just need the season to get here. We need to see if the young quarterback is taking a step forward or not. I guess I could say Darnell Mooney was like having trouble cracking the top 50 in ADP right now at wide receiver, or that seems like I can understand why people want to invest in like higher ceiling opportunities. But Mooney, was he at 1,000 yards last year? I feel like if he wasn't, he was almost there. It's such a narrow, shallow offense that I get the feeling he's going to somewhat, you might even say, who cares if Darnell Mooney like outproduces his ADPs. The wide receiver 47 will be the wide receiver 42. But I think he could almost sneak into like the top 36 where he outproduces it by enough that you have to pay attention, even though he's not really an exciting player. But yeah, we probably aren't going to have many Falcons blurbs at Rotoworld this summer because there's just not a whole lot going on here.
Oh, give yourself some credit, Pat. You're going to have a ton of Falcons blurbs. They just
we had a
won't mean
Kyle
anything.
Pitts one today, actually.
Mooney, for the record, in standard leagues, finished wide receiver 31 last year.
Yeah, and like it seems like Mooney derangement syndrome is taking hold.
Well, it's funny because he's a very exciting real life player. That's the problem, is that he's only exciting, and so in fantasy you just go, cool. I get those 4 games where he's fantastic, and otherwise, it's going to be 2 catches for 17 yards. Awesome. I don't know when to use them.
Hashtag better in best ball.
Oh God! It's fun. I did a live stream for the Almanac pre-orders on Tuesday. That was Wednesday, and someone said, "Hey, what are your best ball strategies?" And I was like, "Not to play best ball. I do not play. I think it's real bad." Yeah, I mean, there's some theoretical upside that Mooney's granted to become Jameson Williams. Penix is a howitzer. I came away from that film thinking, all right, I have questions about. Penix has absolutely no mobility. He's never going to really scramble to throw.
Literally no mobility at all.
Yeah, there are times where I didn't think his accuracy was great, but oh my God, he has one of the biggest arms in the league, like kind of sight unseen. And someone as fast as Mooney, theoretically, I could, I guess the allure of Jameson Williams is that the Lions are kind of also committed to the bit of everybody gets a screen, everybody gets a couple screens kind of thing, and Mooney hasn't yet quite shown that. But as far as like a deep threat goes, I'm with you that I am 46. I'm 31. I'm not, but yeah. Bottom line is, there's probably nothing really we're going to learn.
To illustrate our point on the Falcons, the fact that we're having to talk about Darnell Mooney tells you there's not a whole lot going on here.
Let's move on because the Saints have a ton to talk about. Let's start with their running backs, their backfield. They signed Cam Akers. You could either say early before training camp or late in the spring, but it makes you think. Maybe it makes you think nothing. The bottom line is there is something to learn about what's going on behind Alvin Kamara because we don't exactly know what motivated the Cam Akers signing. There was a lot of smoke around. Somebody said a disparaging word about Kendre Miller at some point in minicamp.
It's never happened before.
It got propagated. Again, if you're going to come up with like thematic stuff for this show over 10 years, it's been just draft Alvin Kamara and you'll be happy because everybody's wrong and he's great. And so I'm not looking to replace Alvin Kamara, but there is a cliff coming for him one of these years. And it probably, Kamara age-wise, it just has he never run for 1,000 yards because he never gets 200 carries. It's just he's a receiver as much as he is a running back. He's still great. He still had, he didn't have a lot of big gains last year. He compiled a little bit, but he still on film was awesome. But that can change. And then also there is always a role for somebody. You can go back to the Mark Ingram days or whatever. There's always room for a big back with Alvin Kamara if the offense is good. So I think we care how the training camp goes for the likes of Cam Akers and Kendre Miller, not because we think they supersede Kamara, but because Kamara just isn't going to be like a carry hog, so there's potential carries for someone else.
You could go back to two separate Mark Ingram days, by the way. I believe, did he only, quote, do only 2 tours of duty with the Saints? Maybe it was 3. And on the Akers side, like, oh, wow, like between the late for free agency or early for training camp, I do more take the late for free agency, like, in March and April, no one wanted to give this guy guaranteed money. I'm not reading too far into it. But then there is something to read into it, and that was in May and June, they didn't see Kendre Miller and Devin Neal and think we don't need another running back. Presumably, they saw those two guys this spring and decided, at the very least, we need to hedge these guys yet again. And I was about to say, the only constant of Kendre Miller's NFL career has been coaches not liking him. I guess in his defense, it was really one coach, and that maybe all he needed was a fresh start, especially with an offensive-minded head coach. But I mean, I don't know. Then again, they did draft Devin Neal this spring. They must not have loved what they saw on Kendre Miller's tape. Weird, long injury history. And I think you can read into the Akers signing a little bit, where he was very efficient for the Vikings last year, but it's easy to be efficient in Kevin O'Connell's system versus Tyler Shuck being the quarterback. So I don't know if it's going to really it's not like I see upside for Cam Akers, but I do think it says something about the guys he's competing with. And that behind Alvin Kamara, it's just going to be like a bigger jumble than ever. And Alvin Kamara, of course, the Mike Evans of running backs, where you should just if you've faded him before, just give up on that and just make him decline. He'll do it on his own time. Stop trying to guess when it's going to be.
So I agree with that much more than I agree with Evans. This is the first time I've ever been on the struggle bus with Evans, so it's a weird feeling, believe me. Maybe I'm just wrong. He'll be fine, but I just don't know that he's going to justify. He's going higher than ever. That's what's hilarious is how are we back on Mike Evans again? But what's funny is like he's going to have the highest ADP maybe of his career in his 11th season, and I'm like, okay, guys, now you're getting stupid. Kamara is not going to have that. So I still think Kamara is going to present. I don't know what the ADP is, but I think he's going to present value. So Kendre Miller, people have been trying to sell us Alvin Kamara replacements for a decade as well. He's not good. I looked at some numbers on a spreadsheet that tell me Alvin Kamara is not good. And then I go, yeah, I watched him play. He's awesome. The best case would be Kendre Miller has a healthy camp and Cam Akers gets cut and disposes of him. The best case for like the Saints turning out to not be the worst offense in the league, which there's a chance they will be, but there's also a chance that we overrate our knowledge of situations beforehand and they turn out to be okay. And then Kendre Miller, the best I think he looked last year was returning kicks, where, okay, dude, just like get up ahead of steam and start rolling. And like, you're a big dude, and he ran into guys and hurt them. And he's one of those like low to the ground, a little bit of lateral quickness, not too much, but more than you might expect, 220 pounds. I'm not telling you I'm excited about him, but like, I know what Cam Akers is. I don't know what Devin Neal is, but what do you go in the 6th round? There are a lot of people who are very enthusiastic about every rookie, and Devin Neal is no exception to that. There are people in my timeline who are screaming to me about Devin Neal. And I go,
also,
okay,
he didn't go to a real school, so Kansas, in case you don't know. So no
is that like a flyover country diss?
Oh yeah, no, I mean it's Mizzou. Well, Kansas thinks they're Mizzou's rival. Let's put it that way. Only one of us got invited to the SEC, man.
Not having lived in flyover country, I can't.
KU, sadly, it's a good school, by the way.
Speak to these things, and so I don't know anything about Neal. I know what people said about him. I rated him 79th in among running backs and comped him to Devin Singletary as if the man needed any more motivation. So like, the bottom line is this is interesting to me in that Alvin Kamara still has never had a 1,000-yard rushing season. That's not going to change this year. There are rushing yards available if they all congealed around one guy, and that guy was also good on the goal line. There's a chance for that to be interesting. It's what you said, like we're probably going to come out of August with all of this continuing to be in a jumble, because we won't have gotten clarity. But if we got clarity, I'll be more interested in that guy.
It's two really important points that Alvin Kamara's role never really changes, even though he has gotten more carries in recent years, but they don't want that. And it's been so long. Yeah, it is hard to remember that there were times where the 1B back in the Saints offense was pretty valuable. Yeah. And that it could happen again, I guess, is something important to keep in mind.
Agreed. So we'll pay attention to that one. Of course, all of this might not matter because the quarterback is probably Tyler Shuck, who, if people have seen the name written out, it is not spelled like that. It is spelled like Shuff, O-U-G-H, but it is pronounced Shuck.
I'd say a good decision on the young man's part, by the way.
It's fine, except for in the Almanac, I have a line about like the headlines sort of write themselves like, no shucking idea, shuck you, that there's potential for some negative headlines there. If the only thing stopping Tyler Shuck from winning the job is he older than Bo Nix and Michael Penix? He might be. Did he have 8 seasons in college?
Yeah, he never 6 seasons, I think 6 where he played, never threw more than 23 touchdowns.
In a good year, I guess, this past year. From what they tell me, I don't pay attention.
Yeah, from what they tell me, I was really watching a lot of Louisville Tyler Shuck last year.
Yeah, I do not. But if Spencer Rattler and Jake Hayner are the reasons he might not win a job, boy, he should win that job. And like, it's an interesting test, not for him. Nobody in a single quarterback league is going to care about the Saints signal caller until like October if they go bananas. But it's an interesting test for Kellen Moore, who I would love to hear your thoughts on because I know you have some. But what matters is really like, we'll talk about the wide receiver specifically in a second, but like, can it be a functional pass offense? You and I don't know Tyler Shuck from Adam. We're not going to know for sure that he's going to be useful for the Saints offense until we see it count in September. But, Kellen Moore comes with the expectation that that's why he's there, is to turn this into a functional offense.
He does. So Tyler Shuck, first thing, I know they haven't officially named him the starter, but I think the Saints understand, like, sometimes you have to have some dignity. You have to at least pretend that you weren't intending to start the 26-year-old second rounder all along. So they're going to make him go through the motions, jump through some hoops to officially win the starting job. But I mean, he is the Saints quarterback. I think you can proceed, base all your projections on Tyler Shuck being under center. And it's just, I don't know, man. He's known for being old. and he's known for being the throwaway king. Like, I believe he led the Division One in throwaways last year. I guess that says good things about his decision-making process, but I mean, is Kellen Moore a fake sharp? Is he a real sharp? I don't even know.
talk about. Yeah,
I have no idea. Where everyone thought he was a martyr when he was fired by the Cowboys, and it's like, oh wow, actually, even Mike McCarthy is a better play caller than Kellen Moore. And then no innovations whatsoever with the Chargers. Now he's a Super Bowl winning offensive coordinator, but the Eagles are pretty unique where like they have a team specific system. The system is we are the Philadelphia Eagles. How much does Kellen Moore really deserve for that? I mean, he didn't do a bad job for the Eagles. I do know that, but I've never gotten the sense that if we're blowing up our organization finally, we're starting from scratch from a 26-year-old second rounder. I don't think Kellen Moore would be in the top 7 or 8 guys I'd want taking on that challenge, and that maybe he's a system offensive coordinator, maybe where he's as good as the coaching and player talent around him. And he knew what to do with it in Philadelphia. You do deserve credit for that. But what do you do with Tyler Shuck in New Orleans? I don't really know what you're supposed to do. And so I do not have high expectations for Kellen Moore being a miracle worker in Louisiana.
We are sponsored by Trade Coffee. It's summer. Are you a cold brew person? Trade knows coffee drinkers who love cold brew tend to spend a lot on it. More than they need to. It's like $6 at the coffee shop plus the tip. Even grocery store concentrate costs too much and honestly doesn't taste all that great. Trade is the #1 coffee destination in the U.S. for hot and cold coffee drinkers. Why is that? They work with small roasters across the country, independently owned roasters with ethically sourced beans. Trade makes it effortless to find new coffees to try and fall in love with, and that includes a special cold brew bean collection, which will help you dial in on exactly the tastes you like, smooth and delicious. And for a limited time, Trade is giving 50% off a month of cold brew. That's around 60 cups of cold brew for half price when you go to drinktrade.com/Harris. Get 1 month of cold brew for 50% off at drinktrade.com/Harris. You know Cousin Josh loves Trade more than almost anything, that any sponsor at least that I think I have on the show. Check them out. drinktrade.com/Harris. All right, we're back with Pat, and we're going to close out talking about the Saints and training camp and August practices and all that stuff. I agree with the take that says, boy, it would be a pretty big surprise if Tyler Shuck was a star, and that he's probably a placeholder until they can get a real guy. But it would be interesting if they could get Kamara helps in a lot of ways. He takes a lot of pressure off a quarterback, and then there are 2 pretty good receivers there, Pat, where if they could just get functional, we know Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed, the rural juror part 2, Rashid Shaheed, we know that those guys are going to come at a discount to where they would otherwise come if people liked the offensive environment, and that is always tempting. But, of course, the downside is you spend a lower pick than you expected, and it still ends up being way too high a pick. I guess, we've covered the likelihood of the offensive environment turning great. We both sort of feel like we're not going to learn that in August, and we're somewhat dubious. But Olave and Shaheed themselves are both coming off of season-ending injuries, and so I guess my point would be to even establish themselves as, middle-round picks, we need to get healthy camps from them. In Shaheed's case, I feel like I could get more info about that. The problem with Olave is it's concussions, and what can you learn until he takes hits again?
So, yeah, the Olave thing. So, to be honest, I don't mind the best ball world. I'm fascinated by the best ball world. I like the debates that come out of it, like a lot of philosophical debates, but I'm not a best ball grinder. The thing I like about not playing best ball is as someone who only does managed league teams, who only does like 10 to 12 of them, quote unquote, only. There are guys I can just not draft. Like when you play best ball, that's not really a luxury. At some point, you have to draft everyone. If you're one of these guys grinding these major tournaments, you just don't have to. And you have the luxury in managed redraft leagues to say, I'm not drafting this guy. Like I don't care if I'm wrong, if I miss out. And Chris Olave is just kind of the guy. There's still a lot of upside there, but even when he was good, there was a little bit of that Amari Cooper to him. Like, he's good. He does look like a first round pick, but why isn't he better? Question mark. Like, why does Derek Carr not seem to like him? And now
Yelled
amongst
at
like,
him. Yeah.
yes, and amongst like big time fantasy football players, I mean, is he the biggest injury risk there is in the player pool now? Like, it's sad, it's unfortunate, but to me, he's almost in like the Tua zone where he's one hit away from not playing the rest of the year. Unlike Tua, he can't protect himself over the middle of the field. He's a wide receiver. We have seen this before. A guy who's on the Saints, Brandon Cooks, was kind of at this career crossroads and then did get it together and continue and have a long career. But I'm just so concerned about the Chris Olave injury situation. And Rashid Shaheed is a guy, I mean, so explosive down the field. Like one of the most fun big play threats in the entire NFL. But then again, one of the only things I know about Tyler Shuck is that he was famous for throwing the ball away. Like, is Tyler Shuck going to let the play develop and hit? Say what you will about Derek Carr. Like, Derek Carr did a lot of reckless, stupid things. Like, Derek Carr, like, was open to trying to find Rashid Shaheed down the field. Will Tyler Shuck gel with Rashid Shaheed's game at all? I'm skeptical. And it's very disappointing. Two very talented players that I'm just not super excited about drafting this year.
And I think I could probably be convinced that Shaheed is healthy and back and good. And, I have him 60 among wide receivers. So it's like, yeah, he's your 14th round pick or whatever. But I think I can convince myself that he's healthy. The problem with Olave is just until he gets hit in the head, that's not going to happen in the preseason.
Grim,
it's not going to happen.
It's grim.
Yeah. But like I have him 35 among receivers. He was 8 among receivers for some people at some point a few years ago. So there is, if you're not having to spend anything close to a starting draft pick on someone like Olave, you have to make the decision yourself. But like, I don't know what the ADP is. I can't imagine the ADP's in starter territory.
He's a very low end wide receiver 3, like 33,
Yeah.
34 is his wide receiver ADP right now.
Okay, so I have him at 35, so I guess I'm right in line with the market. And that being the case, the players I'm ranking around him are like Debo.
That sounds right.
Like
yeah.
I don't want to.
I'd
I
be
don't know
open
who I
to
want.
the Olave lifestyle there.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the question. But the larger point being just simply, there's almost nothing that they can say. His head feels great. I just don't know that we're gonna. That rank stays that rank, and you just acknowledge. In the Almanac, I do like upside and downside, and I try to make it be like I say like here's his best case rank among receivers, and here's his worst case rank among receivers, and I say in the preface to the book like this does not include injury. So assuming he stays healthy and he's got the situation he's got, like where do I think that range would be? And I put him like 16 to 32 with no injuries. But it's the stupidest thing in the world to say that in the case of Olave, because it's 16 to 150, obviously. Like
I guess I will say if he doesn't get hurt, like wide receiver 18 would sound reasonable to me.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just you can't. It has to come down to the individual's risk tolerance because it's an unbelievable amount of risk, no question. All right, one final team left in this division, the Carolina Panthers. I'm going to guess, because it's the way I am with rookie players in general, that I'm probably not as high as the market on Teteroa McMillan. But I also know from again, little birdie who texts me, cousin Josh, like, hey, Josh, I don't really want to know ADP. Have you seen this guy's ADP? And he just tells me. Teteroa McMillan, even if I'm not going to be as aggressive on him as the market, I'm not going to be mad about the market spending whatever, a 4th round pick, because it's not the 15 pick overall. It's not the Marvin Harrison spot from last year. So if people want to reach, again, for upside and not worry about the downside of that guy, 4th, 5th, 6th round, I probably won't do it, but I'm not, it doesn't like freak me out the way Ashton Genty in the top 5 freaks me out. But we certainly can get stories about a highly drafted rookie receiver that say, I don't know, guys, it's not awesome. Or you can get the story that say, yeah, he's awesome. Like that. I've seen both of those things happen for a receiver that gets taken in the top 10.
Jamar Chase can't catch, folks. You heard it here first.
The white stripes.
Yeah, you heard it. You heard it here first. He cannot catch the football. Well, we haven't checked back in on that storyline yet. I'm not sure if that came true or not. Yeah, Teteroa, I think he's the wide receiver 22. It's like late 4th round. I bet a lot of home league drafts would be more 5th or 6th round, and you just laid it out. That's a perfectly acceptable price to pay for someone who was the wide receiver 1 off the board, unless you count Travis Hunter, which I guess you should count Travis Hunter, and was a top 10 pick. My only concern is there's like a little more target competition than you might assume in Carolina. None of it's really that good. But will Bryce Young like truly have the confidence to target a guy like Tet on the sideline, who's like a boundary guy? He's a contested catch guy. He actually did play a little bit in the slot in college, so maybe they'll move him all over the field. Dave Canales is good at that kind of thing, I think, or can be trusted to maybe do that kind of thing if it makes sense. But like, we need the Bryce progress down the stretch last year to be real. We can't have like any kind of more regression from Bryce Young and like a feeling that he's playing for his job. Because if he's playing for his job, is he going to be throwing it up to Tetaroa? But I'm just kind of talking into the wind. Wide receiver 22, he has a perfectly acceptable ADP for McMillan. I will end up taking him in some drafts. I don't really know how I feel about it, but I know that he's around guys like DJ Moore, DK Metcalf, Xavier Worthy, Jameson Williams, Cortland Sutton, Terry McLaurin. Just a lot of question marks. Again, every wide receiver ADP is bad, and Tet McMillan's ADP does not strike me as bad.
Well, it's bad for me. There's no chance I would ever take him over any of those guys because what's his best case? Congratulations, you had a great season. You maybe got what DJ Moore does every year. I just think it's like, to me, that's crazy. I have him 42 among receivers. It's nowhere near there, obviously. But I also don't get mad at that statement. Like, I was actively angry about Marvin Harrison's ADP last year. It's just so stupid to take a rookie. I think Ashton Genty's ADP, I'm a little less annoyed because I sort of buy him as a prospect. But like, if I'll say this again, I'm sorry for the listeners who always hear me say this, but like, the problem is that when people think about rookies, they only are thinking about their best case. They're not thinking about any other range of outcome. And so, like every other player, we go, well, I know what his downside is, and we factor that in. And with Ashton Genty, we just go, nope. It's like he is already Saquon. That's just what he is, you know. And so Tet McMillan comparing him to Terry McLaurin, like, what are we doing? That is not good strategy.
I think the comp there is, of course, Drake London, I think.
Correct.
I mean, how would you feel about 900 yards, 6 touchdowns, 75 catches?
That's not wide receiver 22. I would think that's wide receiver 30. Not usually. Probably.
No.
Yeah.
No.
My comp for him is Plaxico.
Like, you're gonna the Zoomers don't. I guess we have a lot of non-Zoomers listen to the show. They know who Plaxico Burress is.
Yeah, not sans firearms. We're not talking about that part of it. But what I'm trying to capture with that that comp is, yes, I'm going to punish him with the idea that he's a big kind of run the rail, contested catch kind of guy. But plus, because Plaxico was very good and not great, not a Hall of Famer, but like very good. Who was more than just Keon Coleman, more than just, oh, you better win some jump balls, buddy. But there's going to be some of that to McMillan's game.
For sure.
But I would say, though, I'm not viewing this as like a major thing to track in camp, but I do want to know, like, you're ranking him 20 spots among receivers probably higher than I am. So I assume you do want to know, even if it's like dumb Jamar Chase stuff, you do want to know, like, I as a person who's watching these practices every time the Carolina Panthers allow me to, have some concerns about what I see about Tet McMillan. I assume at that point you might have a little softness on the downside of your McMillan rank.
Well, and I just want to see some puff pieces. Sometimes people understandably go, like, what is even the point of the puff piece? Like, of course they're looking good, but it's kind of like, I was talking about this in another show, I can't remember where, it's kind of like a box to check. Like, the puff pieces aren't necessarily meaningful in and of themselves, but the absence of them is meaningful. Right. So like, if Tetaroa McMillan is going out there and like the assembled Panthers media like isn't feeling inspired to write about him all the time, that's not great. So even if they're not writing negative stories on him, right, like, oh yeah, Tet's having trouble catching the ball, that is one like utility of puff pieces where like it's kind of like the bare minimum you have to do. You have to get the press excited about you. Like, you have to get the coaching staff excited about you. Maybe it will not translate. Maybe it won't mean anything, but right, it is always concerning. Like, I use this example too, like a totally different situation because he was a 3rd round pick. Last summer, I just remember there being nothing at all written about Roman Wilson. And I kept trying to find like articles on Roman Wilson, and just no one was writing about him. I'm like, that can't be good. Like,
Right.
no, he's not generating any emotion whatsoever. And so that is one thing. Ted McMillan will probably be generating plenty of articles, positive or negative. But I would say that's the one utility of puff pieces. Like, it's not great if they don't feel like they need to be putting the guy in the notebook every day, is what I would say.
Fair point. So it's something minor to keep an eye on. And then the last thing I will mention is the Carolina backfield. I don't think if there's a revolution coming in the form of Rico Dowdle, which there could, but it feels like better Rico Dowdle is just Chuba Hubbard. Like they're sort of in the same vein, and Dowdle was an kind of a ridiculously inexpensive signing. Why the Cowboys didn't just pay the money?
I have
don't know.
absolutely no idea.
Don't understand. Doesn't
Genuinely
make
no
any
idea.
sense. But, if Dowdle were on the Cowboys, he'd be the favorite to lead that team in touches, and we would be more interested in him than, as the backup in Carolina. I think the larger point is simply that, okay, maybe there is a revolution coming, and it's not going to be a 70-30 split. It's going to be 50-50, and we're going to be adding Dowdle in September because we're on the quest for carries, and we can't find any, and Dowdle's getting some. That's all possible. I just don't think we're going to learn about it in camp.
No, that's perfect take on this situation. And it's something, the Chuba thing, that when you're just a total zero in the passing game. I know he caught some passes last year, but just stunningly inefficient. And I don't think Rico is actually terribly efficient as a pass catcher either. But I could see them, especially like this offense is better and they just have more use for like a pass catching back, that it could be maybe more of like a 60-40 split than we'd like. But yeah, I can't improve what you said. We're not going to learn about that during training camp. Chuba Hubbard's going to look good. Chuba Hubbard's very good at his role. And for Rico and any potential committee, it's just going to come down to how much better Bryce Young is once the regular season starts.
Yeah, I agree with that. Chuber, we call him Chuber around here because Jake Trowbridge did an Obama impersonation where he called him Chuber, and it just floored me. So, great story. I mean, I don't really like, quote unquote, I feel like I'm rooting for laundry a lot of the time. I don't know them as human beings. I don't pretend to. Chuba Hubbard can have whatever life he has in the real world. But as far as like the story of a football player coming from, medium draft pick, we are drafting someone to replace you. Now we're giving you a contract because you're doing pretty good, but this guy's still going to replace you. Oops, now you're the future at the position. And to have him be that good, and he was awful when Bryce Young was terrible. The moment Andy Dalton was in there, suddenly Hubbard looked good. The moment Bryce Young played better, Hubbard was even better. Like, give him space. He's not an RB1 in the league. I'm not trying to tell you he's a top 10 talent among running backs in the league, but 365 days ago, I'm not sure I would have said he was a top 30 talent at running back in the league, and now he might be number he's really good. He's a really good
maybe
player.
Maybe a very poor man's Nick Chubb, maybe? Is that a
super physical? Super physical guy with just a lot of want to. So I agreed, like he sort of is going to be what he's going to be, and probably we will wind up drafting him a little bit. That's going to do it. You did it. You made it through. We didn't even refer to the email. We didn't call it what it's called. I mean, just like...
I didn't complain about getting the Southern divisions. Let's be real. The Southern ones are the least prestigious ones.
I mean, Jamie Eisenberg was on Tuesday, and he said the same thing. And I was like, well, it could be worse. At least you got the Texans. Pat has to come on Friday, and he has to do the other South. But as we like to say, I got asked this again in the live stream a couple times the other day, and people are like, are there teams that you really look forward to watching a film on? And I go, when you watch all of it as fast as I watch it, value judge, you just sort of let it wash over you. You get real zen. It's like, ooh, like Buccaneers Colts is on, or Saints Jags is on. It's all the same to me. I'll just see what happens. So I sort of I don't really judge. Like, I don't work. Like, you get assigned particular teams for like a Sunday for blurbs. Are you like, oh no, I got the Saints? I assume you're just like, oh, interesting to find out what happened to the Saints.
Well, I assign them, and a lot of times though I take a lot for the team, so I do watch a lot of Saints games, a lot of Titans games. But then you can only do that like once or twice a month. So to prioritize my mental health and well-being, I don't necessarily give myself a ton of Saints and Titans games.
For me, I just sort of like, oh, I'll be interested to see what happens. Like because I watch it all within, 20 hours of it happening. I've watched every game. So I'm just like, yep, it's just going to hit me in the face. I just got to deal with it. It's like a wave. All right, well, follow Pat. I'm sure most of you are following Pat on social media, but please do it. Whether you're on Twitter or Blue Sky or both, he's RotoPat on there. You can hear him on the Rotoworld Football Show a couple of times a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays right now in July and also through August. And then check out rotoworld.com always for all the great blurbs that we all read and also the team preview series that's going on right now. Thank you so much for doing it, Patrick. You know I will be bothering you in August to join once again.
And I will be back. Always my pleasure. Thank you so much.
And thank you so much for listening. Let me thank the sponsors that made this fun show possible. We had AG1, Lisa, and Trade Coffee. I would love it if you could pick one of those sponsors to support. That's a wonderful way to say thank you to the show, and you do a wonderful job supporting the sponsors. You can find their deals in today's show notes. You can find all the current sponsors at harrisfootball.com. So we've made it through another week here in July, and we've got 2 more preview shows, 2 more divisions to go through. That's going to begin on Tuesday next week. Ben Gretsch is going to join us to talk about the AFC West, and then just one more, an Almanac Day a week from today. Oh my God, I got a lot of stuff to do. I'm going to go start doing it. Everything's on fire. We also have, I keep teasing it a little more and more as we go by. We have a pretty big announcement coming a week from today as well, August 1st. So you're going to want to tune into that show on next Friday. So stay tuned. We got some big stuff brewing. It's going to be pretty fun, and I can't wait to tell you all about it. Until then, thanks again so much for listening. Your hat is awesome. You're awesome for wearing it. I will talk to you on Tuesday.
The Harris Football Podcast's opening theme is Under the Gun by Apex Manor. The closing theme is Say Yes by The Wellspring. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and never miss an episode.